Hello, welcome to my space. Eunice Adubango here. Still going strong with my friends at Motiek Interiors. I hope you have visited through the weeks. If you haven't, please contact them on the numbers that we are showing you. They have amazing stuff. And if you are looking to furnish your house this Christmas season or as the year comes to an end, Motiek Interiors is definitely your go-to place. I really love these people. And today I want to talk to business people, speaking about business and about decisions that you are going to make as the year comes to an end. I love to share from experience and from testimonies and from things that have happened in my life, both the high and the low moments. And today I want to share with us about an experience that happened in my business that hit me and I almost got out of business. But when I was just coming out of it, I found a passage in the Bible that actually talks exactly about it, and I was so shocked and even ashamed that I had never seen that chapter. And from that day, I'm extremely careful when I am making business decisions because I listen intently and I usually try to test the spirits to see if it is this kind of spirit. The spirit, I call it the Gibeonite spirit. From Joshua chapter 9, the Bible says that it came to pass when all the kings who were on the side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland and in all the coasts of the Great Sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. What did they hear about? They heard about the covenants that Joshua had made with God. They heard about the way the Israelites had won the battles. They heard about so many things that were happening. And I can guarantee you that as you prosper, my business friend, the children of the enemy are hearing about you, but the forces of darkness are also hearing about you. And I need to give you a caution. One of the things that actually came to bring me down a lot in business was my own mouth. You know, the other day we were talking about the whole armor of God, and I was talking about the helmet of salvation to protect the areas around here. And one of the areas that I've discovered that needs to be protected for you as a business friend is your mouth, because your mouth can be your undoing. You know, where you share information that you shouldn't be sharing in doses that you shouldn't be sharing, and you're giving ammunition to the enemy. So you can be in the way that you talk, the kind of information that you give out on social media. You are telling people everything that you're doing and the way you're doing it and when you did it and when you triumphed and whatever. And the enemy is going to rise up and use that information about you. The children of Israel found themselves in a situation where everything that they were doing and the victories that they were getting, they were sharing all over the place, and everybody got to know about them. So what did the enemy do? The enemy gathered up because Joshua and the Israelites had just won the battle at Ai. And so they were excited, and of course they are putting all these tweets, hash, just bought my house, hash, just furnished the house, you know, and they are showing all this information to everyone. And so what did the enemy do? 5 kings gathered together to come and fight Joshua and his men. Be very careful how you're using your mouth, my business friend, because for us in the business spaces, our mouths include our Facebook pages, our Twitter handles, or is it X handles, our WhatsApp, you know, the different things. There are people who are, you know, imploring you or, you know, encouraging you, tell, you know, the problem is the people for whom it's working for are not telling. And sometimes they are making you come to crash because you alert the enemy with the kind of information and with how you give out the information. Verse 3, when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. They worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, we have come from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us. They've come from a far country. Make a covenant with them. Why are people from a very far country coming to make a covenant with you. People who are from a whole other faith. You do not know anything about them, and your businesses do not have a meeting point. But they are coming and they are very interested in you. The men of Israel said to the Hivites, perhaps you dwell among us, so how will we make a covenant with you? But they said to Joshua, we are your servants. And Joshua said to them, who are you and where do you come from? So they say to him, from a very far country your servants have come, because your servants have, because of the name of the Lord your God, for we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon and to Og king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, take provisions with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say to them, we are your servants now, therefore make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day we departed to come to you, but now look, it is dry and moldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn, and these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey. The men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. I want you to read the whole chapter, but I want to end there and tell you a few things that you need to care for. We are coming to the end of the year, and so many covenants and treaties are going to go around. I was once in a space where my business was doing so well. Incidentally, it was that time when I used to do only outside catering. We were doing so well, I can guarantee you. Our cooking classes were always full to the seams. Our Facebook following was growing high. We were doing so many events and we were doing very well. I told everybody that cared to listen. And in there, I told a few people that decided to be like the Gibeonites. So they came to me and they gave me a preposition. And they told me, if you come to this space and you sell at this space, it is so good. You'll be selling this number of plates a day. In fact, our space is so excellent. There are so many organizations that people are buying like this and the other. And I did not inquire of the Lord. I convinced myself that God had said I should go. In fact, there are even people whom I told during that season that God had told me. And it was a lie. I had not inquired of the counsel of the Lord. And I went. I went and I set up camp. I used everything I had. Everything I had plus more, because I even borrowed. And I went and I set up camp. I have never seen such a downturn in business like during those 3 years. In fact, it took me 3 years to accept that things were not working and close down and move. Otherwise, from the very first month, it was very clear to me that I had fallen in an ambush. I want to encourage you, business friend, study some bit of business. When you go to inquire of the Lord, you need to go with information. You need to go with data. You see, when God is speaking to us, he uses your heart as a bed. And what is in your heart is sort of the starter pack with which he uses to add on and speak to you about certain things. So when the starter pack is very little or small, if there is very little knowledge of business on the inside there, God doesn't have a starter pack. Because, for example, before you set up another location, because we are going to come to the end of the year and many people are going to come to you and say, oh, you've been doing well, come set up a location here, come set up another location there, come and do business with us, come, let's go into a coalition. You know, we have so many followers. You need to ask yourself how those followers are going to translate into sales. How many of those leads are going to be conversions? How are they making them conversions? What kinds of people are these? Are they your type of customers? Because what happened is I landed into a space where, yes, there were people, but they were not the Eunice Kitchen type of customer. So every time we put something on sale, they walked out of the premises and they went and I bought elsewhere. So maybe even the people I call Gibeonites were not as bad meaning as the Gibeonites in the Bible, but I fell into the ambush because how was God supposed to make me understand that the people here are not my customer profile if I didn't understand the word customer profiling. Recently, someone came to one of our premises and they wanted to hold what they called a regional championship of a certain sport. And so they came and they convinced my workers that they were going to hold an East African championship of that sport. And they convinced us that they were going to bring TV stations and whatever, and they are going to mention us and everything. And immediately I heard that story, I went back to what happened to me. And I asked myself, I said, yes, God can actually bring an opportunity to lift you and to lift your name. But I needed to ask myself, why an East African championship is being hosted outside the outskirts of Kampala? What type of people is it going to really attract? Because look here, let's sober up. I know that I have prayed enough prayers to make heaven act, okay? But it is sort of like bringing the World Cup to our village in Busowa, where my colleague who is taking the videos is laughing. Bringing the World Cup to Busowa, where a lodge in Busowa, people pay 5,000 shillings per night. So you know what type of lodge we are talking about. Where still wear slippers where they have to put the blue and the red and left together. They've brought the World Cup. You need to ask yourself what God is doing by disrupting the economics of the world to that level. You need to ask yourself. There are certain things that need to inform your decision making. And the first one is understanding the demographics of business. Understanding how people buy in business. Understanding why people buy in business. I did not understand all of those things. I read every day on social media when people are writing down certain things, and now because I've taken some time and gone into the back end and did a bit of study, I usually can tell when somebody doesn't have information and is parroting or is just speaking things and others are going to follow. Please do not be deceived. Most of the things that people are saying are not entirely true. There are people who are telling you they are making a lot of money and they are not making it. They are like the Gibeonite. The Gibeonite who is saying, I left 3 days ago, even my bread has molded. You need to ask yourself, I have heard us in many of our business spaces, especially as believers, speaking big. But just think about it. Where are we hiding the money if all the buildings that we have around us are operated by or owned by people who are not of the faith? Are we just hiding the money somewhere? Is it somewhere in unit trusts? There are things that are not adding up. Now, when such people come and say, come and join our company because we make this much, you need to understand how to read a balance sheet. So the first thing you need to ask for is, can I please have a look at the balance sheet? If the person says they don't show you, then that already is a red flag. Do you understand financial information so that you can ask the person, okay, can we look at your profit and loss statement for the last so many years? So that you look and you look intently and then say, oh, because of this, therefore I can put money here or I cannot put money here. I was enticed to join a business one time where the person gave me very good figures, even had a balance sheet that had been doctored. I have also learned how to see if a balance sheet is not doctored. Now, I did not know that people were doctoring balance sheets. I looked at the balance sheet and the balance sheet looked good and I invested. But then every month the person posted me a loss. Every month the person posted me a loss. But while the person is posting me a loss, they are asking me to put much more money in the business. But look here, when you gave me this balance sheet, you showed me that this is a robust thing. So why is it that suddenly for me when I brought my money, did I bring demonic money? Was my money the problem? When I finally brought it, we started to make a loss, but you're trying to convince me that if I brought more, we would stop making a loss. And I know many of you are in the middle of such decisions. You have put your money in a business that has been making only losses, and even right now as I speak, they are asking you to bring more money. You need to be very aware and very careful about the Gibeonite spirit. It comes as a liar. It comes with information that is shrouded in mystery. It comes without telling you the whole truth. Things just do not add up. Like someone who tells you that they make 10 million shillings a month, but then they have built a house of 1 billion shillings within 3 months. There is something there that's not adding up, especially when they tell you that they did not borrow. One of the things that my mother used to tell me, and it has just come back to me later in life, is Eunice, use your brain and use it to think. I did not use my brain for a long time when I was making business transactions, but now I have woken up and I have realized that Mom was right. Anyhow, you need to use your brain. Even when you go to prayer, even when you go to a place of prayer, your brain is the template that God starts with to work. Because when He speaks one word, because your brain is alert and it is working, that one word triggers certain thoughts, that one word triggers a certain understanding. That is why you need to be very careful with the Gibeonites. Because if they say we left 3 days ago, you need to ask yourself, how long does it take for bread to mold? You need to test that bread first. That is why they teach us to go to the lab. If they left 3 days ago, and they left with these vegetables, what type of vegetables are they? And why, of all things, did they pick out vegetables when they know they were taking a very long journey? Was a vegetable the best thing that they could carry? You need to be asking yourself such questions. But above all, you need to inquire of the Lord. And like I said, when you go into a commission of inquiry, you go with information. Because you can go to God and you say, this person has come and has said this and this and the other, but this is what I know happens, and this is the information that I have dug up. What do you think? Then God will start using correlations and permutations and combinations and will say, but this doesn't add up, this doesn't add up. Just like I told you about the championship. Just when I went into the presence of God and I said, is it you trying to lift us up and making us big? And then God just gave me that analogy and said, Eunice, you can't hold the World Cup championship in your village. Even if I was God, I don't rig elections. That is not how I work. So right now where you are, as Eunice Kitchen, there is a way in which you cannot be attractive in the state it is now and the size it is. Because if we are talking East African, it means it's going to be so huge. And so he asked me, how many people are you going to hold in that place? But then another way that he reasoned with me, God has been teaching me about caring for my customer. God has been teaching me about how to give the customer a good service. And now when these people are coming, they were going to hugely inconvenience the customer the whole day. And so God told me, do you want to inconvenience your daily customer because you want to make a one-time amount of money? And I started to think about it. And I thought about longevity, and I thought about this one-time thing, and then I thought about so many proverbs that talk about people who are hasty to make money, because now that was the template of my heart. And then I realized I shouldn't be hasty, and it was very easy for me to make that decision. But then also many people have come to use that premises, and they are bringing a godly event, and we have said no. And now here we were going to bring a secular one, and it was going to go on the whole day. So what kind of message are we giving out there to the people? So all those are things that I had to weigh in. But because the template of my heart had all that information, it was easy for me then to make a decision. So the two things I want you to think about is, one, have you sought the counsel of God? But two, what is on the template of your heart? Because when God is teaching you to make a business decision, He's going to use the information that you have. That's why He told Moses, what is it that you have in your hand? And then when Moses said a stick, God said a staff, God said, I can use it. And you see the importance of the staff in Moses' hand is God was teaching Moses to be a shepherd to his people Israel. And Moses had been in the desert. And the shepherd helps to herd people, put them in line, but also tell them to go. And that is all that Moses was doing in the wilderness. He was putting the people together and telling them, let's go. Putting them together and telling them, let's go. So God said, what do you have? And when God realized, what He has can help to put the people together and help them go, God said, I can use it. So usually when God wants to tell you something, he wants to know what is in your hand. I want to finally say, recently there is a decision I wanted to make. And when I went to God, he told me, he said, Eunice, you don't have enough information. First go back and read this, that, and then come and we discuss. Why? Because he realized that the template of my heart was empty, or it didn't have enough information. So he told me, go back, fill the template better. When you come back into this discussion, we shall be speaking like adults. Because God is the CEO, and when he enters the room as a CEO, he doesn't want to say certain terminologies and for you don't understand them. That's not the way God works. He wants you to be able to understand what we are dealing with. And so I went back and I started to read. And up to today, I've not yet made the decision, because as I started to read, then I started to even get the answers before I went back into the discussion. So, what is written on the template of your heart? On the template of the Israelites, their heart did not have anything. They didn't know that when someone comes with food, you first test it. Because there are laboratories where you can test and you can know when the bread was made. Even if it molded in one night, you can test and it can show you that this was made yesterday, and they would have been able to see. But the template of their heart was empty. So my business friend, before you make that business decision, first of all, shut your mouth up. Stop telling the whole world everything that's going on with you. But number 2, what is written on the template of your heart? Number 3, what are you discussing with God? That is going to inform you in making business decisions. Until next time, Eunice Adubango here in my space. Bye-bye.